Become so disciplined that your old life can't recognize you. Let me ask you something before we go any further, and I want you to actually answer it, not just let it float by the way you let everything float by. If your old friends, your old habits, your old excuses walked into a room right now and saw you, would they recognize you? Or would they walk up, slap you on the back and say, same old you? Most people can't answer that honestly. They think they've changed because they felt different for a week. A new planner, a new gym membership, 3 good days in a row. But feeling different is not the same as being different. Here's the truth. Nobody hands you wrapped in a bow. Most people don't change. They rearrange. New job, new diet, new year, new resolution. But the person living inside that life stays exactly the same. Same fears running the show behind the curtain. Same excuses in a different outfit. Same ceiling they agreed to years ago and never once questioned. And if you stay the same, 5 years from now, you'll be standing in the same spot with the same regrets, except now you'll have 5 more years of evidence to convince yourself this is just who you are. That's the real danger. Not that things stay the same, but that staying the same starts to feel like proof. So stay with me, because what I'm about to give you is not motivation. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings expire by Thursday. What I'm about to give you is a blueprint for becoming someone your past self wouldn't recognize if he passed you on the street. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why discipline, not talent, not luck, or not timing is the one thing standing between the life you're living and the life you were built for. Don't check out halfway through and tell yourself you already know this. You've heard pieces of it. You've never lived all of it at once. That's the entire difference between the people who change and the people who just keep collecting information about change. Let's go. Discipline is not punishment. Somewhere along the way, people decided discipline means suffering, restriction, deprivation, saying no to everything that feels good. That's a lie, and it's a convenient one. Because as long as discipline sounds like punishment, you'll keep avoiding the very thing that could set you free. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. Discipline is the price of freedom, the only price. And most people refuse to pay it, then spend the rest of their life wondering where their freedom went. Look at the undisciplined man. He thinks he's free because he does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, sleeps when he wants, spends when he wants, quits the second it gets uncomfortable. But watch him closely, and the truth shows up fast. He's not free. He's a slave to his moods, his cravings, whatever feeling walks through the door that morning. That feeling makes his decisions before he even knows a decision was made. He calls it freedom. It's the tightest cage there is. He never chooses. His impulses choose for him, and he just narrates it like it was his idea. Now look at the disciplined man. From the outside, he looks like he has less freedom. A 5 a.m. alarm nobody's forcing on him. Boundaries other people call rigid. He says no to what feels good now so he can say yes to what actually matters later. It looks hard, maybe even joyless to someone who's never tried it, but he's the only one in the room who's actually free. Free from regret, free from mediocrity, free from waking up at 50 asking what happened, because he already knows he built it on purpose. Freedom was never about doing whatever you feel. Freedom is building a life so intentional that your feelings stop running it. You run it, and your feelings just come along for the ride, whether they like it or not. Second, your habits are not who you are. They're who you decided to be, one small choice at a time, when no one was watching. Nobody claps when you wake up early. Nobody applauds the version of you that chooses the gym over the snooze button, the book over the scroll, the discipline over the comfort. No crowd, no trophy, no witness at 5 a.m, and that silence is exactly why most people quit before results ever show up. Because growth is quiet and decay is quiet too. Both happen in the dark, one decision at a time, until one day the results simply announce themselves and everyone acts shocked. Like it happened overnight. It didn't. You don't fall off a cliff into a wasted life. Nobody wakes up suddenly broke, suddenly out of shape, suddenly bitter, and years behind the people they used to run beside. You drift there, one lazy afternoon, one skipped commitment, one, I'll start Monday at a time, until months become years, and years become a life you don't recognize. Not the unrecognizable life you were chasing, the one you were secretly building through neglect. And neglect is not passive. Neglect is a decision, repeated so many times it stops feeling like one. Here's the good news buried in that same truth. The process runs in reverse just as powerfully. You don't wake up one morning suddenly disciplined. You become disciplined the exact same way you became undisciplined, by repetition, by the compound interest of small decisions nobody else ever sees and nobody else will ever understand the cost of. 5 minutes of reading instead of scrolling. One workout you didn't feel like doing, done anyway. One early night instead of the late scroll that quietly steals tomorrow before it starts. None of it looks like much in the moment. Stack it for 90 days, a year, 5 relentless years, and you are not the same person. Neither, quietly and undeniably, is your life. Third, discipline is love in its most practical form, not the version they put in songs, easy to feel for 3 minutes. The harder, quieter kind, sacrifice instead of sentiment, sweat instead of speeches. Because discipline was never really about you in the present moment. It's about someone you love, standing in the future, waiting to see whether you cared enough today to hand them a better tomorrow. Discipline your body, and that's you loving your future self enough to give him energy instead of exhaustion, mobility instead of regret. Discipline your finances, and that's you loving your family enough to give them security instead of stress, a foundation instead of an apology. Discipline your mind, feed it books and hard truths instead of noise and comparison. And that's you loving your own potential enough to actually go and reach it instead of leaving it on a shelf, unopened, while you tell yourself there's still time. There is always less time than you think, so stop calling discipline harsh. Flip it. Discipline is the deepest form of self-respect there is, and the clearest form of love you can offer the people counting on you. Undisciplined people say they love their future. Disciplined people prove it quietly, daily, in choices no one else ever sees them make. That's exactly why it counts. Fourth, understand the mathematics of becoming unrecognizable, because most people get this backwards and it costs them decades. They wait for the one massive decision, the lightning bolt moment, the music swells, everything changes in an instant turning point. It rarely comes. And even when something like it does show up, it was never the thing that actually transformed the life. It is never one giant decision. It is 1,000 small ones, stacked and compounding while you're busy waiting for something dramatic to rescue you. The workout you did today feels pointless in the moment. 1 hour, nothing to show for it tomorrow. But it was never about tomorrow. It's building the body that carries you through the next 40 years. The energy that lets you outwork people half your age when it actually counts. The chapter you read tonight instead of another forgettable show feels small too. 20 pages, no applause, nothing to post. But it's building the mind that outthinks and outlasts your competition 5 years from now, when they're still watching the same shows and you're running the room they used to laugh at you for wanting into. Here's what trips people up. Small disciplines are easy to do. That's not the problem. They're just as easy not to do. That's the problem. Skip one workout, nothing happens today. Skip one chapter, nothing happens tomorrow. Nothing punishes you immediately for skipping. So you keep skipping, and the skipping compounds exactly as powerfully as the doing does. Just in reverse, silently, until the gap between where you are and where you could be is too wide to pretend you don't see it. That's the whole game. Not talent, not luck, not who you knew or when you started. Just whether you understood the math early enough to let it compound for you instead of against you. Fifth, your environment is either building the new you or protecting the old you. There is no neutral setting. It is always working, whether you notice or not. Most people try to change themselves while keeping everything around them exactly the same. Same feeds that keep them anxious and comparing. Same late nights, quietly draining tomorrow's energy before tomorrow arrives. Same circle of people who mock ambition at dinner, laugh at the 5 a.m. alarm, make you feel a little foolish for wanting more than everyone at the table already settled for. Then they wonder why discipline feels like a constant uphill fight. It's not that they're weak. It's that they're trying to grow a new life in soil built season after season to produce the old one. Willpower is weak. Stop building your future on it. It's a muscle, and muscles tire by the end of a long day, worn down by decisions and stress and temptation stacked on temptation. You cannot out-willpower an environment relentlessly pulling you backward. You will lose that fight eventually, no matter how strong you feel right now listening to these words. Environment is stronger than willpower, stronger than mood, stronger than motivation on its best day. Change what surrounds you, and discipline stops being a battle you fight every hour. It becomes a natural result of where you stand and who you stand next to. Surround yourself with people who expect more from you than you currently expect from yourself. Remove the temptations that demand constant resistance just to survive an afternoon. Build a life where the disciplined choice is the default choice, the obvious choice. Do that, And you're no longer fighting your environment. You've made it your ally, working for you even on the days your willpower has nothing left to give. And sixth, the one that carries you when motivation runs out, because it will run out sooner than you think. Everyone starts strong. Everyone feels the fire the first week. That feeling is real, but it was never built to last. And if you're counting on it to carry you through the next year, you've already lost before you've started. You will not feel like it most days, not most weeks, most days. The alarm goes off and your whole body begs for the warm side of the blanket. The workout feels pointless, the hard conversation avoidable for one more day, and no one would ever know if you let it slide. That's not a sign something's wrong with you. That's simply what the process feels like from the inside, every time, for every person who has ever actually changed. No exceptions, no shortcuts. The people who become unrecognizable are not the ones who feel motivated every morning. There's no such person. That's a myth sold to keep you waiting for a feeling that isn't coming. The people who transform act anyway. Feelings or no feelings. Discipline is what you do when the excitement is gone and only the commitment is left standing in the room. It's showing up on the days you don't want to. It's keeping the promise to yourself when no one would ever know if you broke it. No witnesses, no consequences. No one to disappoint but the person in the mirror quietly keeping score. That's the whole secret. Not intensity, consistency. Not one heroic burst followed by collapse. 1,000 unremarkable Tuesdays where you simply, stubbornly did not quit. So back to where we started. If your old life walked into the room right now, would it recognize you? Or would it walk up, comfortable, familiar, already reaching for your shoulder and say, "Same old you"? You now know why most people never truly change. They wait for one dramatic moment instead of stacking 1,000 quiet ones. You know discipline was never punishment. It was always the price of the only real freedom there is. You know your habits are built in silence, with no applause, whether you're watching or not. You know discipline is the most practical love you can offer the people counting on you. You know the math. Small, repeated choices compound into an entire life, for better or worse, no exceptions. You know your environment is never neutral. It never takes a day off. And you know motivation was never going to save you. Only the willingness to show up on the days you don't feel like it. So here's the only question that matters. Not, will you change? Everyone says they'll change. The real question is what you'll do in the next 24 hours. Because that's where this becomes real, or becomes another speech you nodded along to and forgot by tomorrow afternoon. The old life you're living cannot survive real discipline. It cannot follow you into who you're about to become. It cannot recognize what it did not build. So go build it, not someday, not Monday. Starting now, one disciplined choice at a time, one quiet Tuesday at a time, one promise kept when no one was watching. Until the person staring back at you in the mirror is a stranger to everyone who ever knew the old you, including most of all yourself.